Hey guys, welcome back to the team. Today we're going to learn how to alter eyes in Photoshop. Now, the first thing we need to start our project is going to be a high resolution close-up image of an eye. So I'll show some examples here real fast. Once you've gotten a hold of a photo you like and feel you can work with, go ahead and open up Photoshop and paste it into a new project. Now that we've opened up our new project, the first thing we have to do is make a selection of our eye before we can start to change anything about it. So to do that, we're going to create a new layer, and then we're going to select the elliptical marquee tool. With this, we can drag a selection around our eye. Sometimes it's difficult with the elliptical marquee tool to make the perfect selection the first time around. So if you need to reposition your selection, just hold down your spacebar and you can actually drag it around. So you can get it right into the position you want and continue to expand your selection. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit and center it right about there. Alright, once we've made our selection, what we want to do is turn the selection into a layer mask for a group of layers, not an individual layer, but a group of them. So here's what we're going to do. Since we're already working with an empty layer, we're going to come down here and add a layer mask to it. Now, as you see, that took our selection and added a new layer mask based on our current selection to our empty layer. Now, to get this layer mask onto a group of layers, we're going to hit Control-G to put our empty layer within a group, and then we're going to Alt-drag the layer mask onto the group itself. See? So that's beautiful. Now we have our selection layer mask onto group 1, which is all we need. We do not need this original one, so we can actually delete this layer. And let's create a new one without the layer mask. Now if we come into this empty layer, and we hit the paint bucket and try to fill it, Shift-G to scroll through the paint bucket tools, and if we hit fill, you can see based on our layer mask, the only section that's going to be filled. Now, there's a few things about the selection we need to make better. I didn't get all of the brown over here. I've overlapped some of her eyelashes, and as you can see, the edge of her eye is not as defined as our selection, so we need to blur the selection out a little bit. We're going to come and take our brush, make sure we're on a soft brush tool, lower the size of that a little bit, and we're going to go onto our layer mask and paint it out. Make sure we've selected white since we're trying to expand the layer mask, and just go around here and fill in the parts that aren't perfect. Okay, so now we're going over her eye. We've covered all the space we need. Now we want to possibly go back on some of this extra blur and uncover the eyelashes. So we're going to switch to black now. I'm going to switch to a harder brush, and we're going to uncover her eyelashes. Just touch up our selection. Once we finish touching up our selection, you can see we have a nice blurred edge now for the rims of the eyes, and none of the eyelashes are covered. And delete our colored layer. Now we can start to make actual adjustments to her eye. So we're going to come down to our adjustments menu and select Hue Saturation. Inside of our Hue Saturation layer, we can begin to change the color of her eye. Look at that, it's pretty awesome, and it's just that simple. So let's change this darker eye to a lighter blue eye. We're going to drag it all the way up to 180, and you want to make sure we lower the saturation, especially for lighter eyes, because having it so bright, it's great if you're going for some sci-fi look, but it's not realistic. Most people don't have eyes as bright as this. So we want to lower this down to a more realistic color. And now we can close this panel up. Now once we've made the color change, the next thing we can work on is refining our layer mask further, because as you can see, the very center pupil of her eye and even the light reflection on her eye is currently being affected by our hue saturation change. So we don't want that ideally. So let's go in to our layer mask, click on that, make sure we're on black, Since we're going to be taking away from the layer mask, I'm going to zoom in a bit. Lower my brush size just a bit. I'm going to harden it just a bit more. There we go. And here we go. I'm just going to paint away from this. Not that much. We just want the dead center. Paint away from the light. Now even that should be just fine. So let's zoom out and see what we got. Not bad so far. Okay, so we've made two simple changes. We've added a layer mask onto our initial image, we've cut out the center of it now, and we've added a hue saturation change. Now there's something else we can add if we want to brighten the eye further. So we can come down to our adjustments menu again. We can go into curves, and we can right from the center here pull up, and now you can see we're really brightening that eye. You could also darken it if you want to. Usually you'll want to brighten it up a little bit. If the line in your curves is straight, that means there's no change happening. But if we bring it up just a little bit, brighten, I'm paying more attention to the center of the eye, so brighten that. We can close this now. So now that we've brightened the entire eye, we're going to create a new curves layer. We're going to come down again to our adjustments menu, select curves, and this time we are going to darken it a little bit, and I'm going to be paying more attention to the outside of the eye. So just a little darkening right around the edges. So we can save that. Now what we're going to do is paint over the layer mask of our darkened curves. So we can select this layer, invert our layer mask. We're going to hit Control-I to turn it to black. So this means it's not showing through at all. Now what we're going to do is go to our brush, and we just want it to show through on the edges. So make sure our brush is set to white, and then around the edges, we're going to paint that darkened outline. So now that we've painted the outline, let's look at that difference. Not bad. We're adding more depth to our eye with that. The final change we're going to be adding to our eye is some more detail in the center of it. So what we're going to do for that is to create a third curves layer. Come down to our adjustments menu, curves again, and instead of affecting RGB, the entire color spectrum of our image, we're just going to be affecting the green. And what we're going to do is pull the bar up all the way. Look at that. So there are some nice green highlights, and again, we're looking in the center of the eye. Now we want to come over to our curves layer mask, and we're going to Control-I to invert it, and then we're going to go back to our brush and paint around the center. Make sure your brush is very soft, and we can go for a smaller brush. Switch our color to white. And you know what? I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit. Down to 30. Alright, so we added that green detail. Let's come over here and see the difference. That helps the eye pop a little bit more. We can close the curves properties, and I'm going to scroll out. Beautiful. I'm going to close the group now, and let's see the entire difference. From a beautiful brown eye, which we started with, to a beautiful blue eye, with that green tinge in the middle. Now this is just the beginning of what you can do with eyes. I wanted to take a darker colored eye and show you how to make it a little bit brighter, because that tends to be more difficult than darkening an eye. But you can take any color eye you want and change it to any other color using the hue saturation adjustment, and then using the curves adjustments to darken the edges, brighten the centers, or any color spectrum that you want to adjust. Thank you for joining me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you learned something awesome. I'll be sure to see you next week for more Team Talima tutorials.